Without doubts, I think it's by far the best league in the world.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League? Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
So, guys, next up in our predictions is we're going to take a look at Arsenal, who has been a busy team with a lot of rumors of more to come. Gally, I want to start with you when it comes to Arsenal in terms of what do you think of what they have done so far and how will it help them in this season?
So they've done a lot, right? They've been rumored to be interested or working on signing, I believe, every single right and left winger in the entire top 5 leagues. They've actually made moves. I actually think, as much as we love to poke fun at his ugly face, I actually think signing Gabriel Jesus from City is an absolute brilliant move by them. He's proven he can play in the Premier League. I think more than anything, he has a chip on his shoulder and an edge. We've seen it even in Brazil when he gets to go to Brazil and play with the national team, and he plays much better than he has at times with City. I think he'll be a goal-scoring success. I'm not going to say that he's going to be a Golden Boot contender or he's going to outscore Haaland this year, but I think that signing Gabriel Jesus is a smart move, a young international forward, and by all accounts, he was Arteta's number 1 signing from the day he got there. So Arteta wanted him. He wanted him from day one, and City wouldn't let him go. So he waited his time. I think they do much better getting Gabriel Jesus than Chelsea does getting Sterling, as an example, for what they do. Matt Turner, backup goalkeeper, it's smart business because Leno didn't want to be there. The rest of the stuff, honestly, on this list, to me, it's garbage in, garbage out. I still think this team is stuck in neutral. I think their best players are their youth. And I think every time they sign a middle-aged right winger or they sign some 4'9" attacking midfielder, they cut minutes out for Emile Smith-Rowe and they cut minutes out for Martinelli. They look at Odegaard. It just doesn't feel like they're building anything. And I'll let Paul go with his thoughts, but their defense is still a hot mess. And if we have time to come back to me, maybe we can go back into that. But for me, it's all the same for Arsenal. Whole bunch of sizzle. Absolutely no stake.
Yeah, the whole Jesus changing scenery is, for me, now makes the Arsenal games less watchable. Because if you're a regular follower of American Scouser TV, he's my second most hated dude with his ever whining face after Neymar. And you would think I do not like Brazilian team, but I actually do. Somehow my number 1 and number 2 guys are from Brazil. Actually, make that number 3 because Richarlison would be number 3. Okay, so Bickler, I'm going to come to you with this. I agree with Gally that despite my hatreds and how much I despise him, I think Jesus will do good for them. I think it's basically a much younger, better version of Lacazette, who was doing some of the things that Arteta wanted their striker to be doing. And I think you're getting obviously a much younger, a lot better pressing and all that kinds of things. I think one of the names, the Vieira from Porto, what do you think about that one? Because I know I've heard both. I've heard some Arsenal fans really excited about it, and I've heard some Arsenal fans saying, well, this is going to be another guy that's going to get lost in the mix, kind of like what Gally's saying, because it's like an area that is kind of crowded for him with young talent.
I think that in terms of Fabio Vieira, 34 million pounds is an awful lot to spend on a kid that's going to get blown off the pitch at the first gale wind in the Northeast when he plays versus Newcastle. He's tiny. He's 5'6". He's barely 100 pounds. Like, he's tiny. Like, and I feel like this is variations on the theme with size during this entire last tonight between this and the Liverpool podcast. But I just don't get it. I don't get spending that kind of money on somebody like that. I just don't get it. And like to Gally's original point, the strength of Arsenal has been its youth. And I think with both signings, like I know you guys are both big on the Gabriel signing. I'm not. The only thing I agree with you guys on is that he may have a chip on his shoulder, but I don't think that's is he a step up from Lacazette? Maybe because of age, but that's a pretty low fucking bar. Is one team's trash and other team's gold? Yeah, but if you're Arsenal, you don't want to admit that. You know what I mean? That's not what big clubs do. Maybe Jesus proves me wrong. Maybe he has a great season, but you're taking time away from Martinelli. You're taking time away from Smith Rowe. You're taking time away from all the players that did well for Arsenal. And I think in a more ominous sign, the links to Rafinha, the links to all these wing talents, the Marquinhos acquisition from Brazil, granted only $3 million, and he's a young kid, but those acquisitions point to the fact that they're not going to be able to hold on to their best players. That Saka's going to be out, and that is their stud. That's their gem. And if you're looking at Rafinha, if you're buying Marquinhos from Brazil, you're telling everybody that Saka is not going to resign with you. And I think that's the dark cloud that's going to be hanging over Arsenal. Now, Tielemans is on the board for them. Grimaldo, there's been a bid lodged for Grimaldo, left back. Martinez, center back for Ajax, is on the board. So there's a lot of stuff swirling for Arsenal. So we'll see what happens when this all fleshes out. But right now, I would tend to say that their outgoings are more positive than their incomings. And when you look at the fact that they got rid of Lacazette and Guendouzi, and Torreira's probably going to go to Roma, you've got rid of a lot of problems in the dressing room from an attitude standpoint. Guendouzi, for all the talent, was an absolute head case and was an absolute problem on the training pitch. And I don't think you can say much more for Lacazette and Aubameyang leaving too. Those players were problems from an attitude standpoint. Yeah, 2 out of the 3 being French. I'll let you make up your own mind. You know my feelings on that.
And I really liked what Arteta was doing at certain times during last season, but it's just almost like a typical Arsenal thing when you think, okay, they're putting the pieces together, they're starting to play, how they want to play. And this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Gally, so I want to come to you with that. That back line always kind of fails them in crucial moments. And not only that, I mean, Arteta is trying to kind of duplicate what they were doing at City, trying to build from the back and, these passes, getting the goalie in there, like that slow build up. When it works, it's beautiful football. But I think partially because of the personnel, more often than not, it does not work. And it's a very risky ordeal because when it does not work, in most cases, you're giving away a goal. And once you do that, now you're chasing a game. And it was not a team that was built to chase games, really. They needed to control the game, build from the back and stuff like that. So Bickler mentioned a bunch of names. Out of those names, who do you think is the person that they need to go after and get to make sure that backline is a lot more reliable?
I think they need help at the fullback position. I think Kieran Tierney is a really talented player who can't stay healthy. And when you can't stay fit, I'm not a New England Patriots fan, but the greatest Bill Belichick line of all time is the greatest ability is availability. And it's a classic Belichick line, right? And it actually makes sense. And he's never available. He's never fit. He's never available for selection. And I think that hurts them. So they need some fullback depth. Cedric, not good enough. Tavares, an absolute train wreck. Ben White, hot English trash. 50 million of trash. Brighton should we'll get to Brighton. They should get an award for getting 50 million for Ben White and the non-skills he had. Leeds should be doing circles every day that they thank Arsenal for pipping them to Ben White. What a joke he is. And, they had this young Saliba kid, Saliba. He was supposed to be this high up-and-coming player out of France. They've loaned him out 2 years in a row because basically Arteta can't figure out how to use him. I'll give Gabriel credit. He turned his Arsenal career around. He looks like a solid center back, and he holds his own. But they're just kind of a joke. And let's be honest, they got some other problems in their midfield. One guy picks up a red card. Another guy, we don't need to go into him, but, probably shouldn't have been on the pitch too much last year and probably shouldn't be out of a jail cell this year. So they got a real train wreck of type of an attitude. And, I'll end it with this. Leave it for me to rip on another manager, but I'm not a huge fan of Arteta. Paul said Guendouzi was crazy. I'd say the biggest hothead and maybe the most volatile person at Arsenal right now is Mikel Arteta. And it's seen by his players on the pitch and how they respond. And for me, going down in that North London derby and their entire season tanking after that is indication to me that Arteta's not the man for the job. And these erratic buys of just trying to accumulate talent is what Wenger was doing at the end. It had no purpose and no meaning. And I don't think any of these pieces make a puzzle for anything that puts them anywhere better than 6th place in the Premier League table. And that's hard to hear when Tottenham's on the rise and has a world-class manager and signing good player after good player. And you're just throwing darts against the wall to try to make your crazy man seem like he's got a plan. And I
think that's a perfect analogy in terms of the puzzle. I think you have all these pieces, but they belong to different puzzles. So they do not work together. And yeah, when you look at how the season ended, obviously you have Arsenal with the arrow pointing down and you have the Spurs with the arrow pointing up. Even the most optimistic Arsenal fan does not think they're going to be a title contender. Do you think they kind of I guess they will have to really sneak in if they did get in? I guess my answer is already in the question, Paul, but do you see them making it to the Champions League? Do you see them making it into top 6?
I'm higher on Arteta than Galley. But I'm also lower on Conte than Galley is. Galley has Conte up on his Christmas tree. I think
all he's done is win. Ever.
Okay. I honestly think that I think that's hard on Arteta. I think Arsenal finished 5th this year. But yeah, I don't think they finished top 4.
So basically you're putting them ahead of United, I assume, correct?
Yep, I am.
Okay. Yeah, I actually put them as 6th this year. Unless some of those moves they end up making at the end kind of fixes that back line, I tend to agree with Gal. Not on the Arteta as much. I thought he was putting pieces together, but they just try to do, instead of getting identifying key players they need to maybe fix an entire area. You don't have to get 4 above average midfielders. Sometimes you have to get somebody who can kind of control that and do the job right. Same thing with the center back. Maybe somebody next to Ben White to kind of, fix Ben White that you spent so much money on. I think when you spend so much money on a player like Ben White, you expect them to fix that back line for you. And it was nowhere near it, as Gally was saying. It was more like it showed that he needs someone next to him to show him how to kind of fix the back line. And I think that's going to be something that's going to keep coming back to hurt him. You're going to have Arsenal have a good run of 3-4 games, and you're going to be like, oh, they're putting it together. And then they're going to have a couple of hiccups. They're going to have 3-4 games, and you do not stay on top doing that. So, but I think we're all in agreement that they're not going to sneak up into the top 4. It'll be interesting to see how they finish the business. But going back to what Gally was saying, just doing a lot of business always does not mean success, especially if you cannot utilize all these players coming in. So that will be our prediction for Arsenal. Thank you for watching. Do your thing. Give us a like, send us a comment, and definitely subscribe to American Scouser TV.